All right. Well, happy, beautiful, amazing day. Dr. Bob Rakowski here, wellness transformation expert with my wonderful and amazing friend, Dr. Debbie Oldenburg. Dr. Debbie, you've been in practice now over 3 decades. We'd never know because you actually look like that's not even possible unless you started when you were 2. But I might just want to start there. How in the world do you stay so healthy, so young, so fit? And how does that help you pay it forward to your patients?
Oh boy. Well, I remember way back when you were lecturing, actually, this was probably 20 years ago. And you said, hey, docs, if you want to be teaching, you better be able to get up in front of everybody in a bathing suit and feel proud. And I was like, that is so true. And probably back then I wasn't as, diligent about the thoughts that I have and the awareness I have now. And that really struck a chord for me. And then I started to ask questions and get interested and get curious and study a whole bunch. And a lot of it with your help. It was life changing. And that began my journey to being as healthy as I can be at, whatever age I am.
Well, you're doing that quite well. So I want to actually turn back my clock on that. I was doing a lot of teaching in sports nutrition and very thankfully, I've always loved athletics. I've always loved training. I've been pretty good about my diet where I could actually walk the talk, right? That would be a part of it. But when I go to these athletic conferences, some of these people would say to me, my God, it's finally good to see a healthy doctor speaking. And I was confused about that. I said, what do you mean? They said, oh my gosh, we see people, they're nowhere near in shape. They're drinking soft drinks, they're eating donuts. It's like, oh my, right? What are we selling? What are we sharing? And people are paying attention. So it was Paul Chek. He's a pretty famous trainer. And he said, look, if you're a guy and you're not comfortable standing up in a Speedo giving a talk, time to start working on your body, get yourself in the kind of shape where you feel okay doing that, even though that'd be a little odd. We don't lecture in Speedos, but if we had to, at least we wouldn't be embarrassed, right? So there's a good part of that. So well done. So you got that message from me. My memory of you is always vibrant, always cheery, always ready to make the world better, and always starting with you. So you've integrated quite a few things. You actually built a gym attached to your clinic. So tell us about that journey.
Yeah. Well, like you said, when you really understand what health really encompasses, you can't really separate anything. You can't just take supplements. You can't just eat right. You can't just exercise, right? It's kind of a conglomeration of what you do every day is really what you become. And it became very apparent to me, especially through my own experience, was pain. I should not have been having pain in my early 30s in my knees and, in my back and things like that. And I remember at one of your lectures when you were talking about, all the different, I would say macros. And the one that you really imprinted on me is, just carbohydrates and how those affect the body and pain. I mean, really, your lecture was really about pain, but it was really interesting that all I was hearing was, oh my gosh, my lifestyle needs a makeover. I'm doing a lot of things that are creating pain, not inhibiting pain. And they're easy things that I can change. And and then you got me interested in body composition. So I started to incorporate body composition in my practice. And when I started to see, just how poor our body compositions are, that got me even pushing more into exercise and more into, watching what I was eating, what was in what I was eating, the quality of the food I was eating. And that just got me started. And geez, within a very short period of time, I'm going to say like 3 or 4 months, I was down like 40 pounds.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Well,
it made a
I
big.
don't remember you from those 40 pounds heavier days. You just always have been, what I see in front of me right now, just the model of health. But let's go unpack that for a little bit. So, we learned a long, long time ago that if someone's pre-diabetic, if they have insulin resistance, that is a state of chronic inflammation.
Yeah.
And that'll bring up stress hormones. That breaks down lean, increases fat. So body composition testing, right? It's gone a lot of different ways, but you use bioimpedance analysis. I use that as well. It's a very simple, non-invasive test. costs a practitioner minimal to do it. And we charge the patients not much. But when people suddenly realize, wait a minute, that's what I'm made of. That's how much lean I have. That's how much fat I have. That's how much water I have. That I'm dehydrated. My water's not where it should be, on and on. And then there's even a number that quantifies health, global health. It's a powerful test. So how do you build that bridge with your patients? When their body comp isn't where it is, you seem like you'd be a pretty gentle soul at moving in that direction. So how does that conversation go?
Well, you go over all the factors of body comp with them, so they kind of understand, maybe not really right away, but maybe they get the gist of it. And what I really find helpful is just not overwhelming the patient, and maybe just starting out with one thing. And you learn about that patient. I really love to learn about my patients before I start treating my patients, and that makes it even easier. And you learn very quickly where there can be something very easy that they can implement. And once they do that and then they see the change, they're like interested, and then they want to do more. And then that way you can do more. And, I feel like that's kind of how it was for me, just a gradual awakening, and then, getting better and better and better as I felt better.
So what's your favorite easy change to recommend?
Oh gosh, easy change is stop going out to eat so much. I feel like everybody just goes out to eat way too much, and they don't know the quality of the food. They don't know what's in the food. I just did an inflammation test, and one of the things that came back really high for me was MSG. And it's like, no wonder I never feel good if I go out to eat. I'm sure that it's MSG that I'm feeling, among all the other things. But that was a huge part for me, is just getting people to get back to the grocery store, get back to cooking, and just taking that time to nurture themselves.
Well, let's just take a little tangent on that, because there's a specialty, believe it or not, of science or people that work in the food industry. They're called flavor specialists, and they can literally make cardboard taste like a gourmet, delicious steak. And sometimes you can fool the palate, you can fool the brain, but you can't fool the body. And you know what? You are connected to yourself enough where you said, no wonder I don't feel well when I go out to eat. But here's what I know, Debbie, if you did it all the time, you suddenly wouldn't realize what good even feels like anymore. And your norm becomes your norm. And how common do you think that is? How many people are not really aware of how unhealthy they are, and what a bad direction they're going in? Do you have a way of quantifying that, or maybe the patients that you see, what percentage would you say that is?
Well, I would say, this is going to be a little maybe unbelievable, but when I look at questionnaires, when I give people questionnaires, it's low energy, it's the sleep issues, it's the pain issues and chronic pain, not just like, I heard everyone, like they're in pain every day. And to me, that requires not just the almighty adjustment. Being a chiropractor, of course, I love to, work on people. I love dry needling, fascial work, stretching, exercising, strengthening. I love all that stuff. But if you're continually dumping in, a lot of, let's just say inflammation into your body, how good am I going to be for that patient? So for me, I think chiropractic and anything in that realm, exercise, if it is rounded out with understanding what really increases pain and inflammation in the body, and maybe even we want to go so far to say the inability to heal. I think I see that all the time. Okay, if this injury was from high school, why haven't you healed yet?
Yeah.
We all know that it's, less than, I think it's 10%, maybe the exact number on that, where it really is an actual injury, that you should feel. It's a very low number.
Well, I had a patient like that today who just does not take care of himself, had a fall, and now he's still so unbelievably inflamed and swollen, weeks after the injury. Well, what's going on? His body's so stressed, so toxic, so deconditioned that it can't heal. We've got to dot the I's and cross the T's to get healing going. And so, they actually created a new disease entity they called chronic fatigue. But you know what? maybe that legitimately is a disease. It's not infectious. You can't catch it unless, of course, you hang around with the wrong people and you take on their lifestyle. But how prevalent is that in the people that you're seeing? How many people say, my gosh, if I just had the energy to enjoy my life more?
The intake forms are almost 100%. I hate to say that, but it is. It's super high. I hardly ever take care of somebody that feels good and vivacious and clear thinking and ready to start the day and can sleep peacefully at night and isn't feeling anxiety. To me it's like, okay, come on, let's get in here, let's work it. It can be better. And that's why it's so important to walk the walk, right? And talk the talk and walk the walk.
Yeah. And by the way, the name of this podcast is going to be Doc Walk. I actually hired a team and I said, I've been doing Zooms for a while and other things on Facebook with the podcast. And by the way, I thought of you right away. Why? Because you're the doc that walks the walk and you talk the talk and you live it. And you're a living example of what's possible. And how wonderful is that? Now, I might just make a comment. When I take surveys, you'd be surprised, people, they might not report fatigue, a lot of them, as their complaint, but then you ask, would you like more energy? Yes. Would you like to sleep better? Yes. Would you have better digestion? Yes. Would you like a better body composition? Yes. And you see, I've got 30 things listed and most people have 25 or more checked. And you go, okay, you know what? You clearly, you want more, but you're not in tune as to how you got into this crisis. And so, Debbie, when people come to see you, how many of those are you recommending that they start training with you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, 100% in some fashion. Maybe not directly with me, but maybe indirectly with me at first. Maybe it's just walking. I actually have a really, really cool case of a gentleman that came to me, 80 to 100 pounds overweight, arthritis everywhere, blockage in his carotid artery. I think they marked it somewhere around the 70 percentile. And it took me 1 year of just this kind of therapy, which I just call lifestyle therapy. And he has clear carotids. He has lost 80 pounds. His body comp looks like he is a teenager. So, I mean, this stuff works and it's simple, it's easy, it's inexpensive. There's no side effects. And and what's really, I think the coolest thing is I always say to people, don't, pardon my French, but like, don't throw up on people about what you're doing. Be the example. They will come to you. And when that happens, they will listen. So, it is one of those things everybody's like, well, how do I approach this with my kids? And how do I approach this with my husband? And it's like, you know what? Just work on you, focus on you, and the rest will come.
Well, I love that. I have so many different patients of so many different categories. And one guy is just a gazillionaire salesman. And I asked him, what's your key? And now I'm going to take the opposite of this for a moment and then how I spin it. He said, Bob, nothing sells like fear. So you either create a fear of missing out or you keep fear on that path. But you know what? Most people don't walk in our door without some little fear that, whatever's going on is not leading me in the right direction. How do we correct it? I don't necessarily want to feed on that fear. I like the idea nothing sells like success. Because like you said, people are going to ask you, tell me about your program. What are you doing? And you might just say, well, you know what? I could tell you or I could show you. Why don't you come see me? Why don't we train together? That would be a really good bridge for that. So where do you start people out? Let's say this guy, 80 pounds overweight. Where did that start? Yeah. It was a year process, but.
Yeah. And the one thing that he has done, it's kind of crazy, but he's getting close to 2,000 days of never missing. So 2,000 days.
7 years, 6 years. Yeah. Wow.
Yep. Of walking at least 30 minutes. He has never missed. So that was one thread that I got him going. And it was really interesting because as he started to feel better, he naturally wanted to join me and train. I didn't have to even force him. I didn't have to beg him. I didn't say, you need to come, this X, Y, and Z. He wanted to come because he was actually feeling better. He actually had more energy. So, I mean, I just started off with, like I said, if you can get out and walk, hopefully it's sunny out, you get some sun. And, try to get off of just anything, going out to eat, try to just get away from, the real hardcore stuff, alcohol, sugar, just try to come off of those things, continue to walk as much as you can every day if possible. And that was doable to him. And that's where we are right now. Actually, he's still with me after all these years.
Well,
And
wonderful.
what, yeah, and he's a walking billboard for what's possible. The very sad and interesting thing is I have never received a referral from his primary care doctor.
Oh, well. Uh, Isn't that, Debbie? I've got a case like that where you want to talk about a primary care. You've probably seen the pictures I had of the woman that was going to have her foot amputated.
Yeah.
It was loaded up with gangrene, and I've got some of that on my YouTube channel and Facebook pages. We've regressed gangrene and saved limbs 3 different times where we'd videotape the patient. Her podiatrist, she had a diabetic specialist. Her podiatrist, who was going to cut off her foot, saw her walking in the grocery store 6 months later. And he looked at her, he said, "What are you doing walking on that foot?" And maybe she slipped off her sandals. She said, "Look, it's all better." And he didn't ask a single question. He was going to cut it off. Not what are you doing? How did you do it? It's just like, oh, God just gave you a miracle. God gives us all a miracle. Do we take it is the question, and what you're offering. Well, is it miraculous? Yeah. Is it challenging? No. It's what I would call common sense that is so uncommon. Go back to the more natural ways. So they're not going to go to the restaurant anymore. That's good. They're going to cut out alcohol. They're going to cut out sugar. They're going to take on walking. How long before he felt a difference? If he's been 6,000 straight days, he has to know that does something amazing for him.
Yeah. It was only like a couple weeks when he really started to feel that lift and want to continue with recommendations and want to show up. And, you can't force people. That's what I've always learned. But what you can do is just start them, get the wheels going. That's so much easier to keep it going than, to just get someone going. It's like once you get them going, then you've got them, and they normally will continue because they feel so good. Why would they want to go backward? And so, just keep implementing things. So after the walking, after sort of the change in the diet, the wonderful thing was his wife already started to do. I had a class and it was called Fit Over 50, which I should have just called it Fit Over 60, since now I'm 54 and I look back and I'm like, 50 is not that old. But she came and joined my class. She was actually in pretty good shape, but it is amazing. She went from actually not maybe 30 pounds overweight to now she's in her ideal. And she's in her 60s now, I think her mid 60s. And I mean, she looks better than some of the 20-year-olds that come to class. And so it was really nice because he actually had somebody who was on board who really, wanted to improve herself, even though she didn't have the improvement he needed. And they really worked together to kind of, keep the meals going, to cook, to go shopping. Like they really bonded and got together. And I'm telling you, they are absolute superstars.
Well, and how wonderful that people can bond around a health and fitness journey. That's something that you can do for the rest of your existence and make the whole world better. Consider what we see so many other people bonding around useless entertainment or maybe, who knows, restaurants and foods and drinks that aren't serving them. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just get people moving in that better direction? Like you said, it is something that takes on a life of itself. And by the way, for people that are listening, I want to bring out the fact that you mentioned, he cleared his carotid arteries.
Yeah.
I want to say a few things about that. If you're moving, one, your body knows your tissues need oxygen. That plaquing doesn't happen overnight. It actually starts to create its own bypass. It will create collateral circulation. And we've known this for a long, long time. And then we go forward from there. And if you get the chemistry right, especially not too many carbohydrates, not too much insulin, not too much cortisol, not too much inflammatory process, you can reverse that plaquing. And
he did.
How wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. And I don't think people really do realize that, it's a healing process when the body starts to embed these, blood clots, what turn into plaques. That's the healing process. And if you can discontinue injuring that lining of your vascular system, you have the opportunity to completely heal naturally. And people don't know that, but obviously now the people that are around me and the people that are in my, circle at the studio and clinic, they obviously get that and they know how powerful it is. But if you don't see it, sometimes you just can't believe it because we're so, sort of brainwashed that your body can't do anything on its own. You have to have X, Y, and Z. And, when you start to just take bad things out, put good things in, man, can you heal and can you lose weight?
Well, that's the formula for success right there, isn't it? So Debbie, let's say people want to train with you. Do you offer anything where they could start virtually, or do they have to be right there in your neighborhood?
Well, it is interesting. I do have a page where I have a bunch of different sorts of workouts. And if they really don't want to, that's a page that I do have available. And
Yep.
it is, it's not out there publicly.
Okay.
And so it's nice that way for clients. But I like to train in person. Number one, I like community and I like to share. I like to see people and talk to people. I like to watch them move because I want them, obviously, as a chiropractor, I want them to move well. And, I don't think people do realize that if you practice moving poorly, you are only going to have more musculoskeletal problems and maybe even lead you down the trail of surgery. And so for me, I really like in person. And I know everybody's going digital, but I am still old school. I like to be with you. I like to touch you. I like to move you. I like to, see your face, and that gives me a lot of input too, because I do, people who come and train, they're of all different, levels. And, if you see something, you can give a peel back. That's what I call it, a little bit easier for those people that are having trouble. And maybe you don't know somebody's having trouble. Maybe they're having pain. Well, they'll hear the peel back. They'll do it too. So it's, I don't know, it's invaluable. I wish more people were doing things like this, like in a group. I think the group and the community before and after is like the bomb. Like sometimes I'll even wait to start my class because I just love what is happening around me and all the energy. It's so much fun.
Well, it is. I can, what you show speaks absolute volumes. You just radiate excitement and health and enthusiasm. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Probably on Facebook. Fitness Fusion has a nice Facebook page. There's a little message button. You can always message me. That's probably the easiest, Facebook.
Okay, fair enough. Any parting words for our guests for now?
I guess I do have some parting words, and my words would be: it is never too late. The body is a healing machine. It wants you to be balanced. It wants you to move wonderful. It wants you to feel good. So for me, it's never too late. Don't count yourself out.
I love it. Thank you for modeling that. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for paying it forward. One of my favorite phrases is our wonderful world needs all the health that it can get. So
Absolutely.
Fitness Fusion on the Facebook page. What's your town in Wisconsin?
Columbus, Wisconsin.
Columbus. So it's somewhere near Madison, right? What's the approximation of that there?
It's like 20 minutes north of Madison.
I've sent patients that have had a few hour drive to get to you. And, for every one of them, it's been more than worth it. I've got to tell you, Debbie's worth driving, flying for, meeting, training with. Go camp out there for a week, see what she does and see if it doesn't change your life. Because you have just a track record of making our world better. And I'm honored to be your friend and your colleague.
Same here, Dr. Bob. I thank you so much.
Thank you.